Welcome back, my friends, and thank you for tuning back into Fair Fight Christian Wrestling Community. And if you're brand new to us, thank you so much for tuning in. Please consider hitting that like button, please consider subscribing, and please consider giving us a follow at Fair Fight Inc., spelled I-N-K, where you can vote in our polls every week. And this week is a very special week because it's time for the Royal Rumble. We are very excited for this Sunday, and so I don't want to talk about my predictions, I want to talk about your predictions, and that's where everything comes from. You vote in the polls, and then we talk about the results right here. So let's get right into it, and our first match is most likely not necessarily the main event. It's been a lot of speculation as to, is a Rumble going to end the show, is a match going to end the show, but definitely the marquee match going into this pay-per-view is Brock Lesnar versus Finn Balor, and you guys were split right down the middle, 50-50, and we had a 50% for Brock, 50% for Finn. And you know what? Unfortunately, I don't think that match falls into that category. I think this is, unfortunately, just a segue match for Brock to get to WrestleMania, but I think that this hopefully is going to be a big showcase for Finn Balor, going in as the underdog, going in as that David against Goliath, and making him look very strong in the process. So while everybody here at Fair Fight is rooting for Finn Balor, I think that the edge is probably more for Brock Lesnar, but with giving Finn Balor a lot of credibility coming out of that match. All right, moving right along into the WWE Championship match. Again, you guys split right down the middle, 50-50. 50% for Daniel Bryan and 50% for AJ Styles. And quite frankly, I think that's exactly how this match is going to go. You have two guys who could both easily main event WrestleMania. So the question becomes, do you keep the championship on Daniel and give him a fresh new matchup going into WrestleMania, or do you give it back to AJ Styles and let him carry out that huge run that he had with somebody at WrestleMania as well? So it's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be a really good match. They haven't had a bad match yet, so I think everybody's predictions on 50-50 is right on key with how this match is going to go. All right, looking at Becky Lynch, the man, versus Asuka, and 100% of you went with Becky Lynch. That's going to be interesting as we move into our later predictions, so keep that in mind, that 100% of you said that Becky Lynch was going to regain her championship and head into WrestleMania with that title. So hold on to that thought as we get into our next prediction, which is Ronda Rousey versus Sasha Banks, another landslide where everybody thinks that Ronda Rousey is going to retain. And I think that Ronda versus Sasha is really running parallel to Brock versus Finn. It's that segue match to get Ronda and Brock ready for WrestleMania to defend their titles. But again, just like Finn Balor, I think Sasha Banks is going to have a really good competitive match and get her back up to that main event scene where she needs to be. The unfortunate thing is that she's going to go right into the tag division with Bayley going into Elimination Chamber, but hopefully gives her a little bit more steam and momentum coming out of Royal Rumble, and I think it's going to be a decent match. All right, looking at the Royal Rumble match itself, you had your choices here in the women's division, and here's where I said let's keep things in mind and perspective here. 100% of you said that the man, Becky Lynch, was going to win the Royal Rumble after losing to Asuka. So we had some different voters coming in on Twitter because some of you thought, you know what, maybe she's going to lose the match to Asuka, not be in the running for that Smackdown title, but then come back as a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble, and then there's your excuse to let her challenge Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania. I think that is probably the most likely case. You know, other candidates for this win would have been Charlotte, obviously. I think Ember Moon has really elevated herself this past year, and I think Bayley would have been a really great surprise, but 100% of you said that the man was going to come out victorious at the Rumble and go on to challenge Ronda Rousey at Mania. All right, on the flip side, on the men's side with the Royal Rumble, 56% of you said that Seth Rollins would be winning the Royal Rumble. 0% of you said The Rock. 33% said Drew McIntyre, and 11% said John Cena. So there's a couple interesting stories here. Post me putting up this poll, it was announced that John Cena was no longer going to be in the Royal Rumble match itself. whether that's an injury, whether that's storyline, whether that's a conflict in his schedule. It doesn't look like he's going to be there unless this is a swerve and he's going to come out as a surprise. Drew McIntyre has a lot of steam momentum, but I don't know that they're really going to be pushing for a McIntyre-Lesnar match at Mania. And The Rock was always speculated to be that big surprise entrant, but 0% of you think it's actually going to go through now that Roman Reigns is no longer in the picture. And then just kind of rounding out the rest of our predictions. I didn't put polls up for these because I didn't want to overload Twitter with a bunch of polls. But we have Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rusev in the kickoff match. I wish that this was on the main card, but I completely understand that there's only so much time for everything. They'll have a decent match. Hopefully they get the crowd revved up. I personally hope that Rusev comes out with the championship so that Shinsuke can maybe get back into that title picture, because quite frankly, a Daniel Bryan versus Shinsuke match at WrestleMania is very appealing. In the tag team match with Shane McMahon and The Miz against The Bar, I think the bigger prediction here is not necessarily who's going to win, but is The Miz going to turn on Shane McMahon? So leave a comment. Let me know if you think that these guys are going to come away with the champions and be an actual legitimate tag team, or if you think this is a big old swerve to set up that turn on Shane McMahon, and then you've got a nice feud for Mania. And then finally, rounding out the kickoff match, you have your four-way for the Cruiserweight Championship. Again, I didn't throw up a poll on this, but leave a comment on who you think is going to end up victorious here. I hope that this is another great showcase for the Cruiserweights. Do I wish it was on the main card? Absolutely, because I think this is going to be a tremendous matchup. If I had to give any predictions, I would say that Buddy Murphy simply retains, because I think that is a great storyline to say that he overcame the odds. Again, I wish this was on the main card, but I'd rather they have more time to do what they do and showcase what they do. And hey, who knows, could just be a nice job interview for AEW in the future. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. You can follow us at Fairfight Inc. INK on Twitter. You can hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for your predictions, folks. Have a great Royal Rumble weekend, and we'll talk again soon.